You good to go? Good, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. This is the Cottonwood Heights City Council work session. My name is Mayor Mike Wickers. Item number 2 on our agenda today is a review of our business meeting for tonight. And we will okay, sorry, we will start like always with a pledge of allegiance. I was gonna ask Matt Ship, I don't see him, and when I do, we'll ask him to lead us in the pledge. We have our city council committee reports tonight, where we'll have 3 minutes each. Item number 4 is a truth and taxation report. Cottonwood Heights obviously being a part of the South Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement District, they are requesting a truth and taxation to raise their tax rate. Councilmember Burrell is going to lead that or give that report for us. And then we will move to a citizen comment period. And then after the citizen comment period, we have 7 different action items to vote on as a council. We'll start with item 6.1, consideration of ordinance 449, confirming and ratifying the Creek Road West annexation. Jared, anything that you want to add, or Suzanne?
This is again just a renewal of the timing so that we can make sure all the dates are in place and everything's ready to be submitted Wednesday morning. We've got the plat back from the county. It's been signed. Everything's ready to be submitted to Lieutenant Governor. So
this will be done
yes.
January 1. Okay. Thank you for the formality.
Any other questions? Okay, item 6.2, consideration of ordinance 450, amending chapters 9.65 and 15.08 of the Cottonwood Heights Code of Ordinances and adopting a wildland urban interface map. So we're actually going to talk about this as a staff report. So Jim, if you'll hold off on that, we'll come back to that item. Okay, item 6.3, consideration of ordinance 451, approving a second driveway exception at 3396 East Antler Way. So Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's a bit unique, but there's a provision in the code that requires, so first, the code limits any residential property to 1 driveway access per lot, unless it's a corner, which then you can have 1 per street frontage. So the code says that the planning commission and the city council can approve a second driveway access for residential property if there are certain conditions that exist, such as difficulty with topography. There's a few different criteria. So the application that we have tonight is a gentleman that wants to purchase a vacant piece of land next to his home, consolidate the lots, and then build a driveway with a garage and a pool on that vacant piece of land. He's unable to do that because he already has a driveway for his existing home. So he needs this exception to make that happen. So it's all relatively straightforward. The code just says the council has to approve it, which is why we're here. So,
okay.
And then there's some geotech stuff. There's a series of retaining walls that are starting to fail that he wants to shore up and rebuild as part of that garage project. So that would all be reviewed through the building permit review, assuming that he can have the second driveway, which he'll then purchase that land.
Did you say planning recommended approval already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the planning commission heard this item in their last meeting and also forwarded a positive recommendation. And they did add a condition that the second driveway be approved with the building permit for the garage. With that, so.
Right. Any other questions from the council? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Item 6.4, consideration of ordinance 452, approving a general plan amendment for 0.48 acre of realty at 3425 East Bengal Boulevard, from neighborhood commercial to residential medium density. We've seen this one a few times. Jim, why don't you tell us about it again?
Yes. So this is the property just down the road here on Bengal Boulevard. You'll remember, I believe this item came to the council in August. and the council has some questions regarding setbacks and design. Planning staff has worked with the applicant to address the setback issues from Bengal Boulevard as well as from the neighborhood to the north. So the revised plan actually reduced the number of townhouse units from 6 to 5, just to accommodate that area. And then we also worked with him regarding front setback areas along the street that gives access to the neighborhood. So there weren't any needs for a text amendment to modify setbacks. So everything is good to go now. And that's what this item will review tonight.
And in conjunction with that, so we'll approve, item 6.4 is approving the general plan amendment, and then we'll actually approve the general, or the rezone rather, in 6.5. So, okay, questions or comments on that? Okay, great, thanks. Item 6.6, consideration of resolution 2025-70, approving amendment number 2 to an interlocal cooperation agreement with Salt Lake County for the Bonneville Shoreline Trail Alignment. So this is the grant we need to extend, right, Jim?
Yeah, so we already extended this one time last year. So this is funding from the Salt Lake County Transportation Division to help fund acquisition and construction of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail through Cottonwood Heights. The expiration for that funding is at the end of this year. So we've asked them to grant us another year extension through the end of next year. So that's what this will approve. And I actually heard this morning from a few folks that are working on that project, and we're hoping that we'll see some movement here in the next couple of weeks with getting properties
I got the
acquired.
same
So
feedback.
just to be safe, we want to extend it for the full year, even though we may not have to, but we
It
might.
was, if I may, it was a little bit unclear to me, in reviewing that material. Is this focused on the 26-acre open space that Cottonwood Heights owns in our very southeasterly edge of the city? Or is this pertaining to other, trailhead places within the Bonneville Shoreline Trail that have yet to be distinguished as either local or regional trailheads?
Yeah, so this funding is primarily focused on acquiring private property rights or easements to construct the trail through. So there's a few privately owned pieces of land that
So are we
You know.
talking at the top of Golden Oaks, or are we talking at the?
everywhere in the city. So the funding is for the entire Bonneville Shoreline Trail.
But it's never been, to my knowledge, it's never been determined which are local. I mean, we know the regional is Ferguson and another regional is at our 26-acre open space. But the other, I believe there's 4 different potential entry points. And so I'm unclear which entry point has been selected, or what, to
Yeah.
purchase property.
So let me,
Yes,
we're
yeah.
gonna bring this to a closed session in the next meeting or two to discuss if this goes through. It's something we've discussed
But
previously,
before
but
we advance this document to Salt Lake County, shouldn't we know what we're?
no, this is just an extension of the grant they provided for us
If
several
we don't
years
vote on
ago.
this, we won't have the grant money to.
This is just to extend the grant they provided. I can't remember what year it was originally granted, but this,
19.
it originally expired in 23 or 24. We extended it to the end of this year. We're extending it to the end of next year. So the grant's not for specific locations. It's just for property acquisition for the Bonneville Trail through Cottonwood Heights.
Okay,
So we're just extending the grant. We're not saying this is the locations with this federal.
okay,
This
thank you.
is just the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
Okay, the last item we'll vote on tonight will be item 6.7, consideration of resolution 2025-71, approving a cooperative agreement with UDOT for law enforcement resources in connection with Cottonwood Canyons. Chief and or Jared, any one of you want to talk about that at all?
I can speak to it. This is the same agreement as last year with the Federal Control of the Canyons, the same amount as last year. And so we've approved, nothing changed.
Great. Questions from council?
Thought we were gonna cajole him for a little bit more. Is that
And we did ask for a little bit more.
But
Didn't
this
get
is
it.
what we get. We get what we get. We don't throw a fit.
Yes.
We still throw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The county literally didn't do a thing last year, so they're either, I guess, going to this year or keep getting money.
Does that cover your costs that you need?
It does, but with the changes on Wasatch Boulevard and the pavement there, we're gonna have to put up a rover to keep people out of the areas and guide traffic through there. So that cost is not covered. But some of the money went to the sheriff's office. We would rather that money come to us. We think we do something with it. And we're not
Well, is
sure.
the sheriff's office met to have a rover there on those snow mornings?
No, no. And I wouldn't let them anyway, because it's our area. They should just turn the money over to us, but.
Who-
You're not
That
making
seems
this-
inequitable I've been asking this question for the last 6 weeks is, I mean, having a wider shoulder along SR 210 Wasatch Boulevard to pull cars over, but if we don't have, the money for your staff to, make that happen, I don't think everybody's just gonna fall into the shoulder without, obviously, it's gonna take an officer, like you said, at least one.
It will, and we're planning on putting it there. I'll get it covered. So.
Well, I hate to see that hit the city's budget.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on. Item 7 on our agenda tonight is just approval of the consent calendar, which is the City Council Planning Commission joint work session for October 21st. Any questions about that? Okay, we will move back to our work session agenda and move on to item number 3, which are staff reports. We're excited to have, we obviously have a great committee in our Parks, Trails and Open Space Committee. And it's led by a great committee chair, Chris Owens. They're gonna come up and give us a report. If we could maybe make some room at the table for Chris, just come on up and we'll look forward to hearing Utah's report.
Matt, don't leave so quickly. That was like, you were almost excited.
Myself.
I know. I was like, wow. Settle down.
Hamstring. All right.
Thanks for being here, Chris.
Thank you, appreciate it. Would you like information on the screen or would you just like me to speak of what
That'd be
we've
great
been
if you have
doing?
a presentation here.
I do, if we can
You can actually.
commandeer a cable.
Hold on, can you share it with Jim or someone?
Yeah, you can't do it with a cord. You have
No
to
cord?
take it in the
Email it to me.
I'm not. Pardon me, I am not on the internet. But. Want to do it.
Thanks, Chris. We have to put it up on Zoom, so.
Ah, okay.
Chris, do you want us to make room for anybody else at the table? I see Ron is here.
I will call her up on occasion, but she has asked not to be at the table.
Okay.
Very
You know she's bashful.
Very
He
on
likes-
brand.
He likes the background. I get it.
Doesn't he?
If you got any jokes?
I think he's talking to you.
Did you? Did you just call the firefighter a joke? Whoa.
Well, you were asking about a calendar earlier.
Calendar.
I got this thinking.
Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself while we're pulling this up.
Sure, I'll do an introduction for those of you that don't know who I am. My name is Chris Owens. I'm the current chair of the Parks, Trails and Open Space Committee. I've been a resident of Cottonwood Heights now for almost 10 years, been here in the valley for nearly 25. The committee itself, as you know, has been around for 8 years. I've been on it for 6. And happy to say that this year I'm serving as the chair, hopefully longer. We'll see if they don't first impeach me.
Grateful for anybody who would step up. Thank you for serving.
Thank you.
Well, what do you do for a living, Chris?
There we go.
You got it?
Pardon me.
What do you do for a living?
I'm actually a regional salesman for a manufacturer that makes audio products. So my job is to travel around my half of the country, do sales presentations and expos and things like that. So not a problem for me to get up and speak today.
Great.
That's awesome. All right. I think we're almost there. Excellent. Okay,
You can just.
excellent. You let me drive?
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So thank you once again. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and discuss our progress with you. Currently, we are nearly fully staffed. We have 14 people on the membership committee. One is going to be joining us tomorrow night for the first time, a new member, Scott Simonson. With that, we have 14 out of 15 members, so we are nearly full. As I said before, Jim, could we, is this it for putting this full screen?
Yeah, because it's on Zoom.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure no one was
Yep.
being blocked by anything. 2018 is when this committee was formed. As I said before, we're one of the youngest of the committees. We've done a lot of good over the past 8 years. We have strived to improve the cleanliness, the safety of our parks and open spaces. We've implemented programs, we've ushered projects to fruition and identified areas where we still need to do some work. And that's one of the reasons we're in front of you here today. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, but I've got to be honest with you, I'm more excited about our future. One of the things that we introduced is a concept earlier this year called PTOS 2.0. Basically, this was simply about raising our level, our game, if you would, and doing a bit more than what we have in the past. We're basing this on 3 different criteria or 3 different elements. Number 1 is increasing our visibility with the public. Number 2 is more collaboration with others. And number 3, celebrate our successes. When we look at the visibility, with us being the youngest of the committees, there are some things that we're kind of behind the curve on. And number 1, for example, we don't even have a logo. So this is something that we've been working on here the last 18 months. We have a temporary one that you'll see on the screen there that's right underneath the visibility section. This is a combination of an AI generated little logo there on the side that says Cottonwood Heights and simply having the PTOS acronym on the side. This is temporary. As I said, we're going to continue to find something that's a little more fitting for us. But I did want to let you know that that PTOS acronym is something that we're wanting to use more in public. That we want that to be our public name, our public face. We feel there's 2 or 3 reasons to do it. Number 1, obviously it's easier to say PTOS than Parks, Trails, and Open Space. Number 2, I think it's got a little more cachet. And number 3, if we were to use that in articles like what's shown here, PTOS hosts cleanup day. If you don't know who and what PTOS is, you have to read the article to find out. So there's your hook in bringing you in. So PTOS is something that we want to use and we think it's got good leverage for us. In addition, in visibility, we are planning on and have already implemented some signage changes. We need signage for both the VIP program and for some of our events. One you'll see is at the top right there. We recently hosted a cleanup project at Berry Hill Park. This is a sign that we put in the park afterwards to let people know who did that work. You see it has a before and after sign. So I think that was well received. That's something that we'd like to continue to do. And it's part of the visibility to let people know that we are out there, we are active. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that we're also looking at our expo presence. In the past, we've only shared a booth with a historic committee. That hasn't worked that well for us. So we'd like to have our own 10x10 this year at Butlerville Days. But once again, us being behind the curtain, we don't have logo, we don't have table skirts, we don't have background banners, things like that. So once again, more work to do in terms of our visibility. Lastly, website updates. We do have a landing page on the Cottonwood Heights website. However, it hasn't been utilized. We haven't had anyone to be able to help us utilize that. We actually did find a VIP, part of the VIP program, who's pretty savvy at this, and he's going to help us in that regard. So we're looking in the future to have program updates, projects, things like that, that we can let the people know a little bit more about what we're doing. And when we're hosting projects like the Berry Hill Park cleanup days, that they'll know to be able to join us. Why? Yes.
Question. I think it's wonderful that you're looking at having your own branding and logo. Could we work together with you so that it actually is cohesive with our city
Sure.
branding, with colors and the like, so it's identifiable?
Certainly. We
That
welcome
would
that.
be really great to do.
Excellent. Thank you. And we'll hold off, make sure that we don't put anything out formally until we've had that collaboration.
That would serve you and us well.
Indeed. Thank you. Appreciate that. Why do we concentrate on, visibility? Well, because we recognize the closed loop of what that brings to us. With increased visibility, we get increased project awareness. Hopefully at that point, also we get more public participation, which is what we're wanting to do. When we get that participation, there is a sense of ownership, people taking ownership of the park and being proud of what they've done. And of course, that all boils down into the funding side of it, that when they are asked, do you want to continue to support Cottonwood Heights Parks and Recreation? They're going to check yes on that ballot box when they have that sense of ownership. So that's what we're trying to create. Second portion of PPOS 2.0 is collaborate more with others. We are first concentrating on doing that with our other committees. So one that we have already implemented, this is something that was offered early in the year, to work with the Historic Committee in having a guided trail walk on the Big Cottonwood Creek Trail. This is something we did during Butlerville days. So once again, this is something we've already implemented. Those of you that joined or heard about it, Gail Conger and Ronna Cohen, who's in the back there, served as guides. There are new historic walking tour brochures that are being developed. So those will be upgraded. There will be additional tours that are being introduced in that program, and new guided tours for future Butlerville Days walks. In terms of the Arts Council, one thing that we have proposed to them, and yes, we've had Laura Garcia into our committee meetings to speak of how we could do more collaboration. One thing we were looking at is an expansion of painting in the park. If you're familiar with that, during Butlerville Days, that's been a very popular program. They've had anywhere close to 100 people last year that participate in that event. So the suggestion was, why not take something like that, duplicate that in additional parks, have that be something that's kind of a mainstay for us. Let the Arts Council decide what that will be, how it's expanded, if it's simply more painting, if it's macrame, if it's, whatever, that's their decision. Lastly, PTOS does support more murals in the parks. We absolutely love the mural that happened in Golden Hills. That's beautiful. And that would be wonderful if we were able to expand that into additional parks as well. Last part of PTOS 2.0 is the celebration portion of it. And this is celebrate with the public. So what we're looking at is anytime that we have new park amenities, or we're going into a park to do improvements, when we have group events like tree plantings or the cleanup projects that we spoke of earlier, invite the public. And this is a quick mock-up of how something like that might look. When those portions are completed, we could put out an advertisement showing that we're going to host a little event, show them the different improvements that have happened in the park, such as here at Bywater Park. Some of the things that happened there recently would be a great draw. In addition, work with the other committees. For example, shown here, have the Historic Committee inside the pavilion there that are showing the park's history and the park's future. And of course, it'd be great if we have a community involvement event, such as plant a tree with a VIP or another cleanup, things like that, to make sure that there is an action item that happens. So people feel proud that they were able to not only show up, attend, but actually make a difference. And lastly, along that same concept, this is something that we threw out to Laura Garcia, that wouldn't it be a great idea if at the end of lifespan for the Hillside Plaza, what if we use that as a community involvement event, do a little bit of a paint wall with that, get together with not only kids, but with the adults in the community as well, perhaps some kids paint wall, a paint by number for the adults that we all join in, share the different colors, some of the different items that you've seen here. Basically just have some fun with this before we tear it down. Be a nice visual way, and all of the committees could get together and enjoy something like this.
Great idea.
Thank you. We've also had several guest speakers this year to help us expand our knowledge, get a better sense of how things operate within the city and within the structure of the city. So for example, we have had Utah Open Lands in front of us, several different representatives from Cottonwood Heights, to talk to us about bonds, sustainability, the different grant programs, things of that nature. So this is something that we're going to continue to do so that we can learn and grow. And with that, in an effort to put our knowledge to work, one of the things that we're looking at right now is to play an integral part in the new master plan for Mount View Park. We've had this discussion several times that this is a park that's 20 years old. There are some elements in it that need to be addressed, pardon me. So we thought with all the knowledge that we've been gaining, all the people have been coming and speaking with us, the 8 years that we've had experience of working this program, let's have a say in what the RFP items are. So that's what we're looking at now. There's several different items that we're looking at. Some of the things, elements include all-inclusive amenities, sustainable water use, and then overall maintenance and safety concerns. We are tomorrow night, as a matter of fact, going to have Andy, the parks manager, as one of our guests. He's going to tell us about some of the things he's seen at Mount View Park, some of his wish list items. If he had, 100% resources that available to him, what he would like to see changed. So this is part of what we're trying to do to, once again, put together at least RFP items to help address the master plan and make that be all that it can be. And lastly, shown here, this is our largest park. It's also our most popular, most used park. So we really like to get this one right and make it our crown jewel.
One thing I'll also mention about that park, which I think it has a unique importance, is there's actually a pretty dense population in that area that do not have any open space of any kind. They don't have yards. This really is their primary resource for that. We do have other neighborhood parks that are around homes that have yards. This is one of those unique situations where it's the flip, which I think is why you have high utilization as well. So something to keep in mind.
Indeed. Thank you. What we're looking on for the future projects and focus, we will continue to establish PTOS name and identity. That's something we're really working hard towards. The master plan, as I just spoke with, we'll continue with that. That's ongoing. Canyon Center Park, as you know, that little pocket park that's in Canyon Center area down by 8 Settlers Distillery. That's something that has a preliminary design for it. But as you know, also the use case scenario has changed for that area since the development is going to be more residential than it was going to be before with businesses. So the use of that park is going to change a little bit. So we'd like to take another look at that. In addition, we've been looking at the various pass-throughs that are going into the parks. That's how we've labeled them. I'm not sure how the city refers to them, but some of those pass-throughs do need some work. There's some damage, there's some issues. So we're trying to sort through that, find out how we might address getting those up to snuff.
I'm sorry, are we still talking Canyon Center or have you moved to a
No,
different?
all pass-throughs that would be going into parks. So for
All
example,
pass-throughs
this
into
is
the
correct.
Thank
So
you.
we're identifying them, we're photographing them, we're getting a catalog of what their conditions are. Some of them have broken cement where they have raised areas and they're trip hazards, things like that is what we're trying to identify so that we can address those. More park projects such as the cleanup days, tree plantings, like I spoke of before, that's part of our future focus. And once again, the setup of the website so that we can actually advertise some of these events and invite the public to share them with us. One of the things that we did last year was we completed a park beautification survey. Each one of the PTOS members went to a respected park and we created a list basically of action items, things that we saw that needed attention, areas that needed to be addressed. All of that information is what is basically used for our request for funding this year, or portions of it. So with that in mind, I'll jump right into it. We had 7 different funding requests this year for a total budget balance of $20,000. I submitted earlier to Councilmember Holton the line items here. And if I may, I'd like to speak of them each in a bit more detail. So of the 7 items, the first one is a funding request for an operations budget. This is the amount is something that we've had in the past. Unfortunately, this was not granted to us last year. We did not have the $3,000 that we've had in years past. So just to let you know, there were some things that were out of pocket by different people on this committee. And that's something that I don't think is necessary, doesn't necessarily need to be continued. So we'd like to make sure that we have a budget to address some of these things. These are a couple bullet points underneath there of examples of where this budget might go. A really good example is the VIP program is growing. And as you know, VIP program T-shirts and hats is a relatively large expense, and that's something that would go towards this. In
Does
addition,
everyone on the council know what the VIP program is? Just want to make sure. Okay.
thank you. And the VIP program has grown. It now has over 160 different members. Ronica, who is joining us, is in the back of the room and would like to stay hidden, but no, I'm going to introduce her. And once again, let everyone know she is the mastermind originator of the program. She also manages it. And as you recall, she actually won an award for this a couple of years ago. So as the program continues to grow, we do have expenses that we need to address in that regard. We are also using the VIP program, or I should say there are needs with the VIP program for yard signs. There are some parks that are better covered than others, so we need to advertise a little bit in some of those parks. So a yard sign would be the way we'd like to go. In addition, the Mark in the Park sign, that sign that we left at Berry Hill Park, showing the cleanup work that we had done. That's another type of yard sign that would be out of this budget. And as we spoke of before, if we're going to have a more public face, we need event banners, table skirts, things of that nature. And also even the community cleanup that we hosted a couple of months ago, there was an $80 charge for the trailer for that. And when we were asked how are we going to pay for it, I had to say, we didn't get a budget this year. So we had to basically just beg the city for $80 to get a trailer. So these are basics of what we would be spending the funding request towards. Any questions?
Which the city would have spent way more than $80 to actually clean the park, right? So you get something to keep in mind is we've got these folks that are super passionate about it. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to appropriate these new things, but if we at least wrap our mind around the thought that, you know, sending crews of people is a huge cost to the city, it ended up costing $80 and it looks beautiful. Yeah.
Indeed, it turned out very well. To let you know, at the bottom of the screen, you'll always see a running budget balance there. So as I spoke of, we started with $20,000. The first funding request was for 3, so that brings us down to 17. Funding request number 2, this is a simple request, but a big one. This is important. It might sound, as I say, trite, but it's not. And that is more doggy bag dispensers for the parks. We are way short on the number of dispensers in the parks. A good example is Mount View Park is our largest and busiest park. We have 1 dog station there and its location is poorly set as well. It's near the splash pad. Really needs to be at the egress and entrance points to the park. That's where it should be. And for example, the picture that you're seeing there, that's a photo I took in Bywater Park. That is a neighborhood pass through, as we said before, coming into the park. And this is done properly. As you can see, there's a sign right there that says that people need to have their dogs on a leash. And right next to it, as you can see around the corner, is one of the dispensers. So this funding request is for 10 additional posts with the triple bag dispensers. We would put them at to be determined locations. And once again, the preferred locations are next to park entrances so they can best be utilized.
Yeah, just quickly say,
Please.
I've had a number of constituents call me related to dog things. And though we now have an off-leash dog park, of course, at Ferguson, people do want to come to these parks, and I really commend you for this cross communication, you know, the reminders that your dog needs to be on a leash. And I also am just curious, are the bags that are going to be dispensed, are they biodegradable bags?
I'm not sure of
Is the
that.
Provider?
Rhonda, do you know the answer to that?
No, we don't even have any there, so.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what the city purchased in the past.
I mean, you know, and I'm so glad you're bringing forward these budgets, and I think that would align with our, you know, sustainability goals for the city to, you know, have where we can lessen the plastic footprint. That's going to be an initiative that I'm going to push all year long. So this is so great.
Indeed, that's a good point. So as Rhonda just pointed out, we are out of bags right now. So new bags need to be purchased, and if they can be biodegradable, another benefit. Excellent, thank you. Funding request number 3, this one's a little bit more involved. This is, you spoke of before, the 26-acre parcel that is the Utah Open Lands area that's by the foot of Little Cottonwood Canyon. You can see in this photo here, the issue, what's happening is there is a social trail that's going straight up that hill, and it's getting wider and deeper with every season. So this is becoming problematic. This is something that we'd like to address. The best way to address this would be to put in a formal trail instead of a social trail, that being a loop trail that's up in this area. The loop trail could eventually connect to the BST. That's always been the intention of this property. But currently in this area, we need to address this before this little social trail here becomes a ravine of sorts.
Are there erosion concerns that the trail is, as Rhonda's nodding her head?
Indeed.
I haven't hiked this in
Yeah.
recent times, and this is, of course, in District 4, and I'm.
This is
that's
also
great.
becoming so popular that you'll note even on the satellite image, it's being called the Plinko Trail, which this is not a formal trail. I don't know how it got that kind of a name. So even a social trail here is getting marked as something that people can come to and utilize, and that's not a good thing because this is causing damage. So the request here is an allocation of $5,000. The funds would pay for a sidewalk, a written proposal, and a loop trail design. We have contacted Bob Radke with Creative Trails, and he helped us with this. He did state that the $5,000 would more than pay for what we've listed here, the sidewalk proposal and a loop trail design. It may go towards some of the building of the trail itself. That's still to be determined. Of course, we haven't even done the sidewalk yet. So after we have more information about what this area entails and what it might need, we'll have a better understanding of the dollars that are needed.
So
But
this goes directly through up onto the mountainside to the US Forest Service land.
it does.
Does it show up on all trails? Do you know?
I haven't checked on that. That's a good question. Yeah, so once again, things that are getting noted like this, that it being named on a website or that it's now on all trails, which I'm not sure if it is. Once again, those would be bad. We need to address this before it gets worse. This is quickly becoming a steep and deep ravine.
And 5,000 would pay for the reclamation of that.
It would basically pay only for initially the site walk, the proposal, and a design. So any work that needs to be done, what was pointed out to us is it's more than enough. The allocation of $5,000 more than enough for the proposal and design, but it could go towards some of the development itself. But
How long of a trail
to
is
be
it?
determined. Pardon me?
How long of a trail is it? Is it pretty lengthy?
It's not. It's only about a mile, mile and a quarter, something like that, but it's being readily used and it's becoming a problem.
Okay.
And with it going straight up the side, as you can guess, it's becoming a pathway for water every season. Funding request number 4 is a small regrading at Ferguson Park, just a portion of it.
So Chris, sorry, before you move on.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, so with the plan for the sidewalk and how is that gonna discourage people from using that trail then?
We're not going to discourage them from using it. We're going to invite them to use the loop trail instead. So basically, when the loop trail gets developed, the thought is that they would go up a certain length and then join onto a loop trail that of course has switchbacks and things like that. So it's not a straight run like this. And then if there's an opportunity that the debris, the dirt that comes off of creation of the new trail could be filling in this social trail, I think that would be the best way to resolve it. That's just top of my head. That's not with what's been presented by the team. That's just my thought.
Perfect.
Number 4, once again, is at Ferguson Park. This is a small area. If you recognize where this is located in the photo, this is just to the northeast of the restrooms and that electrical box that you're seeing there. This is the sidewalk that you're seeing in the corner of this photo. The issue that we're having here is the slope there is eroding onto that sidewalk. It may not look that bad in this photo, but I guarantee you the problem is worse. This is after 2 times of our park captain being out there with a shovel and scooping some of the dirt off of that sidewalk as the rains bring that down. So it's something that doesn't look bad now. It's a pretty simple solution. Basically, just have some regrading on the other side of that sidewalk. If they determine that they need to put a plastic drain line inside a small berm on that side in order to divert water that will be coming down, that's still to be determined. That's just something that we're throwing out as a possibility. But this is something that needs to be addressed. The more this gets eroded, the more readily it's coming down onto the sidewalk and becoming a problem. We're allocating a cost of $1,000 to this. In our minds, this is 2 to 3 hours with a skid loader. If they want to do something more, that's of course, to be determined. Any questions on that element? Okay, moving on to request number 5. This one's pretty easy to see. This is out in front of Mill Hollow. This is an existing planter box that is connected to the parking lot. This is one of the first things you see when you drive into the park, and as you can see, it's an eyesore. There are dead plants, there are weeds, there is an opportunity here to make this look nice, but it is going to take a little bit. So solution being replant with native drought tolerant perennials. Obviously, it'd be great if we can convert the broadcast sprinklers there to drip lines, so it's a little bit more efficient. And for the $3,000 that we're asking for here, we are envisioning 20 new perennials and mulch beds that could really help this space come back into its own.
So is that for strictly materials or is that including labor?
We are hoping that that includes labor as well. That is our best cost estimate to include both.
Have you looked at xeriscaping that with the desert?
We've not, that's an option. We could certainly do some xeriscaping or xeriscaping. We would prefer xera that has some plant life in it rather than zero, which is just rocks.
The xeriscape,
Yeah, correct.
As a native drought tolerant plant. So
Correct.
you don't have to.
Correct. And with that, once again, the drip lines would serve it best.
Mhm.
Any additional questions on number 5? Okay, just 2 more to go. Number 6 is $3,000 for tree plantings. What we're envisioning is that 20 trees from the Arbor Day bulk tree sale that has been hosted for the last 2 or 3 years, that we get an allocation of 20 trees from that. The trees would be put into to be determined park locations, and that we would invite the community to join us in programs like Plant a Tree with a VIP that I spoke of before. So this is something that's a no-brainer for us. Trees obviously are one of the elements that best helps to beautify our parks and increases biodiversity. And then lastly, funding request number 7. This is from the Active Transportation Committee. They are recommending that additional traffic calming elements be put in place. The allocation of $3,000, we recognize fully this provides only a small portion of the total cost for a project like this. If memory serves, this same thing that was done out in front of Bywater Park in combination with the sidewalk that was along the perimeter there, it was almost $80,000 for that project. So we fully recognize that that $3,000 is not going to pay for something like this. However, that's kind of always going to be the case with active transportation projects. If we're able to do any good and do something like this, it's going to exceed not only their budget, but our total budget of PTOS. So once again, this is an allocation. We fully realize it won't pay for all of this, but at a to be determined location, the Active Transportation Committee has offered that this is the best use and way to spend their allocation. Those are our budget requests. We appreciate your consideration on all those. Any additional questions?
I'll go over Matt. So are you looking for a budget amendment, or are we looking to just put this into the 27 budget cycle?
My understanding, you'd be putting it into this next year's budget. Is the request.
Okay, not an amendment before.
I'm just a curiosity. I thought it was so great. What a presentation. I mean, that was awesome. Tree Utah, is that one of the places that may have grant opportunities to, now that we are a tree city, does that facilitate any, because you mentioned all these tree planting ideas, it's just so great. And I just was curious if.
It's actually a great idea. We hadn't explored that yet, but thank you. That's something we can look
Yeah, I mean,
into.
since Tree Utah or being a tree city is a new thing for our city, that is such a great opportunity. And I want to really commend you on collaborating with the Arts Council and all the things that you're doing. And I love this idea of multi-generational, and it so aligns too with the great work that Suzanne Hyland and others are doing to elevate the senior programs in our city. And I love the idea of integrating the generations, and painting is that, like music, painting is that unspoken bonding. Let's see, I had one other quick comment. Oh, I also attended a USU unbelievably, they are doing a series over at the OC Tanner Center. And what I ought to do is when I get invited to those, I'll do this sooner, you as the chair, I'd love for you to disseminate the information about what USU is offering. They're doing it, I think, quarterly. And they have a professor come and speak on some aspect. This last time it was on greening of and sod and things that pertain to obviously parks. And one of the things that came up in a conversation I had there is that USU, I think it's through their Local Scapes program, offers free to our municipality to come and evaluate our sprinkler systems throughout our parks. So I'll follow up with you.
Thank you. Great opportunity.
Yeah.
In addition to that, USU, if you recall, is who implemented the retention basin inside of Mount View Park, which right now isn't really being utilized. Even the sign that is there is badly faded, so you can't tell what its intention was. And through this RFP process that I've been speaking of, one of the things I'd like to do is get a hold of the extension, ask if they'd like to be involved as we continue to work towards the master plan, find out, do they want to do something similar, have a retention basin there, possibly some of the parking lots drain their water into that. Something like that might be possible. So I'd like to speak with them, find out if they want to continue to be involved with us on the next phase.
One thing that I would suggest, and thank you for putting in the work and bringing all these things up. It's pretty amazing the value that the committee has, because there are an extra set of eyes and ears out there figuring out what needs to happen in our community with our parks. Some of these items, and I'm going to ask Jared and your team and Matt Ship and others to look at some of these items and see if is this something that's maybe already on your kind of in your plans, or some of these things that, oh, you know what, we're planning on getting that done in the spring and we're aware of this, so that these folks can then really narrow in on what those requests that the council should prioritize dollars to. And some of these things might be able to be knocked off already, which makes some of these other asks easier to fund outside of the normal process that they have. And Matt Ship may be able to say, hey, you know what, we've got that in our budget to get some people over there and kind of do some cleanup and some other things. So if you could share that list, or maybe even this presentation, share it with Jared and I, and then let his team sit down and work through some of these. And then Jared, if you can come back to us with, hey, you know what, I think our departments can handle these three things. Let's put the rest of them through a budget request process, and let's get as much as we can get done on that list for you and the committee.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. Excellent.
Any other questions from the council? Well, Chris, thank you. That was awesome. I echo those comments. That was a great presentation.
Excellent.
And
Thank you very much for your time. Do appreciate it.
please pass along our thank you to the committee.
Will do. Thank you.
Matt, you can come back when you want.
My hamstring still resting.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to item B under staff reports. This is entitled the WI or WUI and fireworks maps discussion. So obviously this is in relation to a new state law that was passed this past session. And so we've got the Chief Riley Pilgrim and our Community and Economic Development Director, Jim Spung, that are gonna kind of talk about this and give us some background and give us some.
We have another guest also.
Yeah.
From UFA.
Oh, who is that? Oh,
Fire Marshal Watkins.
sorry, didn't see you back there. You're right.
I'm just observing and just.
Happy to come up if you want to come up.
There's a chair.
There's a seat for you.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mayor. I'm actually going to turn the reins over to Sheldon. So Sheldon Howa was hired on here a few months ago as a planner in the department. He joins us from Harriman, has a ton of experience, and he's been a super great asset for the city. So he's done an amazing job leading the efforts of this project. And he's going to run through what this means, why we're doing it. And then Riley's here also to help answer questions. So Sheldon, take it away.
Before we get started, I would print some of the WUI map. You guys want to look at that? You know, the ones that were included in the packet, stuff that we're kind of spelling on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Exciting.
Oh, okay.
So as the mayor mentioned, the state legislation passed House Bill 48 last year, which requires all cities to adopt the wildland urban interface, the fire code. In addition to that, a WUI map or wildland interface map that is consistent with the data that the state provided, where structures or parcels that have a structure exposure rating of 5 or higher. So part of this requirement is that the cities have to adopt this by January 1st, 2026. So House Bill 48, the goals of this is to reduce wildlife risk in areas where development's wildland interfaces, establishes consistent statewide building and fire prevention standards, and through this process requires defensible space and wildfire resistant construction. Now, if the city fails to adopt this, we could lose our eligibility for state funding for wildfire mitigation. So based on these requirements, the city is required to adopt the WUI code in both our building and fire codes. Again, as mentioned, a WUI map based off the state data provided by, the data provided by the state. For all areas that have structure exposures of 5 or higher. This will ensure that all standards are integrated into our development, review, and enforcement processes. And just a little highlight, prior to this meeting, so the staff did produce an article which was included in the newsletter for November, giving an overview of the House Bill 48. In addition to that, we mailed out about 1,200 mailers to all residents who were impacted by this new mandate, and these were done on November 6th. And since then, we received a handful of phone calls from residents. So,
Wow, this is fascinating. And this, the way this line goes,
So my understanding, it's the city's job to enforce this?
yeah, so it's part of our enforcement process. Yeah, so when
Code enforcement?
It'll fall right into city ordinance, so this would be enforceable by Colin Heights.
So when people submit a building permit, they have to comply with these standards for new
And-
construction or.
and it's that they will be taxed or assessed an additional fee that other residents will not.
Yeah,
Isn't that the-
depending on their rating, depending on whether or not
Two
they're.
different items.
Yeah,
The
there's
the
two.
WUI code is an addition to the building code.
Yeah.
So when they do additions or new construction, they'll have to follow those new standards in that code. And the fee is an additional requirement that will actually. be
And that's an
by the state,
annual-
not by us.
Yeah,
And that's an annual fee.
Yeah.
they're two separate things. So the WUI boundary is identified by Colin Heights. So we looked at what the state data, then my own ground truthing and looking around. And the score is based off of topography, so the shape of the ground, the fuel type, and then the ember travel, as well as like potential for fire risk and weather in the area. And so we've, based off the state recommendation, we went with the score of 5 and above for the Colin Heights boundary. So that's separate than what the state's doing. The state is going to assess a fee in what's called a high risk interface area. And that typically is a 7 and above. So when you look at this map, roughly, don't hold me to this, but roughly anything that's like orange and into the red would be a 7 or above. Right. And so those would be the homes based off of the size of the structure would get an annual fee anywhere from $20 to $100. The state hasn't landed on the specifics yet. But so there's 2 different maps. The one that we're doing tonight is the ordinance for Colin Heights. That would be enforceable by the city. Then the state will come out in January with their refined data. And that'll be where the fee is applied to the 7 and above.
So tonight, we're not here, I'm trying to, because you and I have had
Sure.
a number of conversations in the last few months. So we're not here tonight to talk about the boundaries related to fireworks and that sort of
Not
thing. We are
fireworks.
strictly here related to this WUI that is initiated by the
Right.
state.
They're 2, and those need to be considered separately as well. So just like
Because
the
I think it's in
state,
the spring that we'll consider.
or sooner,
them.
hopefully. And so there's 2 different things going on. This one will be just the state area, which is again out of our hands. That's being assessed by their data. But the 5 is something we have say over, and that's what we've determined with this map. The fireworks will be 100% independent of the WUI boundary and what the state does. Those will be
Okay.
a
And
totally
the
different
confusion, my
conversation.
fault. We had originally kind of discussed maybe trying to do them together, but once we got into the WUI code, we thought we better keep them separate for various reasons, and I forgot to change that on the item. Agenda, so.
So one of the concerns has been whatever map we adopt, that the state could then just come in and say, okay, that's going to be our WUI area and use our map. And enforce the fee based on our map. Is that
Correct.
Is that what we've heard?
And that's why we tried to stay away from the fireworks map. Any other maps are actually more restrictive. Because that encompasses more areas of Collet Heights. This is the state's data, the state's map, the state's recommendation, and we didn't go outside of that. So all the data on this map came straight from Forestry Fire and State Lands.
Okay.
And we chose not to be any more aggressive than what the data said.
In case I get questions from constituents, I find this so fascinating, and I appreciate you sharing that you study ember travel and a number of factors to come up with what we're seeing here as the WUI overlay. And when I say you, I guess I'm not really saying the two of you, but the state.
Yeah.
And so I find it fascinating that Green Hills and Giverny neighborhoods, which are to the west of Wasatch Boulevard, are in the WUI overlay versus, and I'll just bring it close to home, my house, which is on the east side of Wasatch Boulevard, and I'm not in the WUI zone. I just think that's fascinating.
It's interesting, and I drove all that yesterday because I was curious about that myself. And a lot of that's access, a lot of that's just proximity to slope. A lot of that is, these maps are, the data they use is relatively accurate, the fuel type, the slope, all that. And so when I drove that area specifically yesterday, because I saw that, I just wanted to be sure that's pretty.
So this
accurate.
guarantees me when I look up at the mountainside and it's ablaze that I'll probably be just.
There's no guarantee.
Just kidding,
But-
just kidding.
Don't say when.
Let's let.
Well, we know the perfect storm is the problem. When the wind blows at a certain strength and from a certain direction and all the things align. I had a constituent who is extremely concerned about the fire that occurred in the swamp lot. So we're talking on the
Sure.
west side of Wasatch Boulevard, right near 3500 East. And had the winds been blowing in a different direction, et cetera, what they were able to put out that same night, you were able to put out that same night, could have been catastrophic. So I just can't overstate the importance, and I am appreciative that the state is taking a keener, whatever enforcement element in all of this, because we don't want Maui or one of these terrible catastrophic.
This is exactly how we get on the track. I can't say to prevent it entirely, but reduce the chances of something's catastrophic happening. And that's one thing I think we have to remember is it's not always the flaming front that burns houses down, it's the embers. And when you get a fire like that, if you go back and watch any footage from California or that, I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands of just tiny little embers getting blown every which direction. And those just land all over your property and your little crevices and your siding and your shingles everywhere. I mean, your house is just, it's like rain and it's just landing everywhere. And so that's what this calculates for, or it tries to, at least with some certainty of accuracy, right? Like, give us that kind of understanding where that risk is going to be. It's not going to be perfect, but based off my experience and, like I said, ground truthing this and driving around, this is it's pretty amazing how accurate the state data is. So,
So based on satellite data?
they take a lot. So they use satellite data. They use a lot of survey data with different fuel types and slope, and like geographic, like USGS maps. And they've taken into account a lot of different data sets. And so a lot of it's their proprietary data as well, but a lot of it is satellite. This is the company who produces this actually creates maps globally that assess wildfire risk around the world. And so it's pretty reliable and accurate data, especially now, like where we are today compared to even 5 or 6 years ago. The stuff they're using is pretty cutting edge and reliable. So,
Well, I know we won't take time on this tonight, and I make my brief, but I am very interested in heightening the educational opportunities
Sure.
that we give our residents. I know Assistant Chief Brenneman, I really appreciated the work he did with me over the last couple of years, talking about what individual residential homeowners can do to lessen the chance of fire, reaching their house and or, just basically mitigate our risks. And likely, hopefully my council colleagues all agree that in this next calendar year, hopefully we can figure out ways communication wise to reach more of our residents, since so many do live in this zone or near it.
Yeah. If I may, just one thing, the one thing that's been lost in a lot of the discussion, because everyone's really caught up on the fee and the map and this and that, the intent behind this as well was to prevent insurance companies from just upping and leaving and dropping homeowners, right? And so the one thing this also requires companies to do is utilize the state's data. So a lot of insurance companies are utilizing their own proprietary data as well. And they may be way more aggressive than what some of the state data is. And so what we're hoping to do is kind of, I don't want to use the word force, but strongly encourage insurance companies to rely on state's information. It's collected firsthand. It'll be even more accurate once we're out there doing home assessments. But the intent is really to also hold insurance companies a little more accountable. If they're getting up your rate by 20%, they got to provide a written notice. They're going to drop you, they have to provide a notice. And there's actually a process through the state tax or insurance commission that prevents people from being completely dropped without certain steps being taken. So that's all been kind of lost in a lot of the HB 48 conversations, but a lot of this intent was to also prevent us from losing our insurance. So
well, I can attest, our insurance, I think, went up, it was like by 40%. It was breathtaking just in the last year. So I know that's on the mind of a lot of constituents. Yeah.
So.
Okay.
You keep on, Sheldon?
Yeah. So to comply with this mandate, the staff has drafted an amendment to building code to incorporate the International Woolly Fire Code as required by state law, which ensures these standards are applied during the review process and through construction methods. Similarly, we have to adopt this as well into the fire code along with the WUI map. Again, this just provides enforceability for these defensible spaces and these wildfire risk mitigation. So what does the WUI code regulate? So it's just essentially going to regulate essentially building materials. So fire resistant building materials, roofing, siding, decking, vent standards, vegetation and clearance, defensible spaces. One thing, they look at driveways, access, and water supply standards. Now, currently, these regulations are only going to be enforceable when new construction is involved on the site. So currently, there's nothing homeowners need to do at this point to comply with any of these standards. So, moving on.
What about rebuilds?
Rebuilds? Yeah, rebuild would follow that.
Yeah, just like the normal building code.
Any new building permits would be subject to that. So
Yeah.
we're not requiring people to retrofit what's there, but if they're changing something that's there, it would have to meet the new standard.
Or if they have a fire in their house, they rebuild.
Yeah, I mean,
Up to the most current code
Yeah.
standard. Yeah.
It's good practice to voluntarily do a lot of this stuff just to protect your property, but the city or state isn't going to require people to do things without a permit at their request.
Yeah, and as Larry mentioned, this map that was put together by the city, it was based off state data, the GS department, UFA staff, we kind of all work together on this map to ensure that, we're being consistent across, across these boundaries. There's some areas where, I guess the data from the state where minimally eclipsed lots or, in those cases, we looked at those on a case by case basis to adjust the boundary to maybe exclude or include those depending on their fire risks. As you can see in the northern here where the water treatment center is, we decided to just increase that boundary just to cover that area as well. So any future development, they'll have to comply with that standard. So how does this impact property owners? As I mentioned, this is only going to be applicable at this time for any new constructions, exterior remodels, and etc. So any parcels that have a structure exposure score of 5 or greater must comply with the WUI fire code. So when they're doing that construction or etc., they have to comply with those standards. Parcels with a structure exposure score of 7 or higher, again, they must comply with the WUI fire code. They may be subject to these fees that we've discussed earlier. These fees are, will be assessed by the Forestry, Fire, and State Lands Department. From the information I've the latest information I've seen, right now they're looking at doing it basically a flat fee based off square footage. And that could range from $20 to $100 at this point. Now, they intend to get these assessments out to property owners by mid, I think mid 2026, to the end of the year. At that point, that would be the rate they have to pay. Now, in 2028, they're gonna reassess all these properties and kind of look at each property on a case-by-case basis, I'm assuming what they're doing. And at that point, they'll assess their fees based on the site risks and the structure themselves. And through both these processes, there is a way for the residents to appeal these fees. So if they don't agree, they can go through a process. I'm assuming they can probably, impose or put in place fire mitigation risk, right, to reduce that standard.
Yeah, so forestry fire state lands falls underneath Department of Natural Resources. DNR already has in rules, they already have an appeals process. And so the appeals process for any homeowners who disagree with their assessment would be similar to any appeal that goes through Department of Natural Resources. So they're working on the rule, final draft of the rule, and then the policy that implements all this. With the imposed fee, the thought is the cost of the fee is only intended to cover, or the amount of fees only intended to cover the cost to administer this program. So the counties will be administering it, so they're the ones who will collect the fee, keep what makes them whole, then pass the rest on to the state. And the money is intended to go into the wildfire fund and most likely be used for education, outreach, as Ellen mentioned, because there's a lot of that needs to happen with this. Also, during that 2 to 3 year time frame from 26 to 28, they're gonna do the training. So the first half of 26, they'll train all the assessors. And basically, it's the person who's gonna go out and look at the property, and they want it all done the same way, same standard across the state of Utah. Just quite the undertaking. Initially, that responsibility is gonna fall on the counties. And then the counties, through an agreement or interlocal, or however they want to do it, can delegate that off to fire departments or other people, have them do that as well. But that's between the counties and the organizations of the municipalities. What will happen is if you get assessed at the higher tier and you follow the stuff in the assessment, right, field mitigation, some of the property improvements you can make on the structure in the field, that could potentially drop your fee. The thing that won't change is where you built your house, right? So if you're on a slope, if you're in a canyon, if you're in a draw, or something along those lines, that it will always be. And so the hard thing is with the fees, you can probably adjust it or reduce it to an extent, but because of the topography, right, that we can't change, that's gonna kind of keep you probably to a certain level no matter what you do. But the thing that we're happy about is initially there's a lot of concepts on how this fee was gonna be as a cents per square foot. It was all sorts of random stuff. And where it's at now with the basically they'll have 3 or 4 tiers of this, and it doesn't look like it'll go over $100. Must be, maybe like 1,500 to 3,000 square feet is this much, 3,001 to 6,000 this much. And so the fee seems pretty fair. And then once you hit 2028, the fee will be not only that dollar amount because of the structure size, but they'll also have an assessed amount based off of the high risk category. So you will get the flat fee plus probably another small fee tacked on top of that based off of any field mitigation you haven't done or anything like that. But that is yet to be determined. And we'll know probably more about that in the next few months. So.
Okay, I think, and as Bradley did mention, so part of the House bill, it mandates property insurers to use the state's high risk boundaries when evaluating property for wildfire. And to notice the resident if there's an increase over 20% if they drop their insurance. And again, there's an appeal process for that as well. That wraps it up to summarize, the House bill does require that we adopt these fire codes and this map. Staff has prepared these ordinances and the map as well. So if you have any questions?
I think we've got this on our agenda for the 2nd December meeting, is that right?
It's not for tonight.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah, this was, okay.
The one thing I'll just close with too is the code, we have the current version right now, 2006. Well, it's not current. That's what the state has. There's potential, looks like even tomorrow, that this will be presented to update the code to 2024 in the interim sessions. And so that just based off of what we've learned and what California went through, the one thing that they've really spoken highly to is anywhere where the most recent version of the international code has been adopted, the WUI code, is where they had the most success in defending or the survivability of homes. And so it's kind of a culture change. It's kind of a shift. Some see this as kind of like a pretty hefty thing to impose on people, but on the other hand, to really, and what we're looking at is not this year, right? But 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road, where if we do this the right way, we can prevent a lot of what happened in California and other places by doing this. And so the one thing that will happen is if the state updates the code, obviously that would reflect within in Conwood Heights as well, or anyone who adopts the code. But that's something that we're always going to advocate for. I mean, if it improves public safety and survivability of homes, it's definitely something that we're going to get behind as far as, you know, fire service in Utah. So we definitely find this is a good thing. It's a little, I don't want to call it aggressive, but it's definitely a pretty big step in solving the problem. So
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. I appreciated that presentation. Any other questions? I know Sheldon and I hadn't met you yet. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, hi, everybody. I'm Sheldon Howa. As Jim mentioned, I came from Harriman. I was there for about 7 years. I live in Mill Creek. Let's say, and I'm just trying to get my bearings here at Conwood Heights, just getting used to the processes, learning the code. Look where I've enjoyed my time here. It's been about a month and a half, and yeah, I guess as far as fun goes, I don't know. I'm not married, don't have any kids, so
Sounds fun.
Wait, Helen, you're
Why
quiet.
is she calling you?
Well, welcome. We're really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
He's been an absolute rock star, so we're super happy to have him.
yeah. And I think Chief Watkins, for coming, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I just want to commend your diligence. Chief Pilgrim's definitely let out. I keep asking him, you need help, and he gives me the right information back in my Kale, stay out of your way. Just understanding the differences of what the states get imposed versus what the responsibility is at the municipal level. You guys get it. I just want to commend you and say good job. I do want to show you a copy of the 2006 Utah Wildland Urban Interface Code when they say adopt the WUI code. That's it, that little thin thing right there. So a lot of the international fire code is laced in there, which you guys are already working in. And there's some building code in there that definitely defines defensible space, municipal water supplies and things like that. Everything that was talked about. So you guys are in line, but I just wanted to show that as an object lesson for everybody so you understand it. So thank you for your time and thank you for your diligence working through this. So appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna go to item 3 under staff reports, which is entitled the chicken coop discussion, Jim, and so.
Yeah, this is what we've been waiting for all night, is the chickens. So-
Yeah, get back up here.
I can't bear, she's.
No, not yet. So I'm gonna introduce Emma. So she's another planner in our department that's an absolute rock star. She graduated with her master's earlier this year and joined us in April.
Yeah.
I wasn't here yet, but a few months before I got here, she was hired. So she's taken on this text amendment for chicken coops, and she's gonna walk through what it is and what it means for residents. So yeah. go for it.
All right, let me just share my screen really fast here. Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right, so we'll just be talking really quickly about the text amendment about chicken coops. So this is in regards to updating chapter 8.13, which is focused on chickens. Right now, the current code calls for a 40-foot setback from neighboring dwellings, and there's no sort of enforcement provision within the code. So we're proposing reducing the required setback for chicken coops to 25 feet from neighboring dwellings, and also adding an enforcement provision that would enable the revocation of chicken permits after 3 ordinance violations. As some background, Cottonwood Heights has received inquiries from homeowners who are interested in owning chickens, but some of the yards in the area aren't big enough to allow for a 40-foot setback from neighboring dwellings. Like I mentioned earlier, the current code only allows chickens in yards where they have at least 40 feet. But we contacted Salt Lake County Health Department, and setbacks of anywhere from 25 to 35 feet are pretty common throughout the valley. They agreed with us that reducing the setbacks to 25 feet would allow more residents to keep chickens while still maintaining enough distance from neighboring dwellings. Our code enforcement officers in the city also requested an enforcement provision just to ensure that all other ordinances related to chickens are followed, which would help reduce any potential concerns about noise and odor from chickens being located slightly closer to homes. So we found that, yes, the current code is a little bit more restrictive than some neighboring cities. So reducing setbacks could be an opportunity to allow residents with smaller lots to keep chickens. Again, the 40-foot setback requirement is overly restrictive for many standard sized residential lots within Cottonwood Heights. And then this enforcement provision would just give the city greater ability to address any sort of non-compliance. We brought this to Planning Commission and they voted to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council. They just had a few small revisions. They wanted to increase the required setback from coops from 3 feet to 10 feet from the property line, just to ensure that they're not right up against property lines. And then also allowing the city to investigate potential violations upon observation in addition to received complaints. And then just briefly, I do have the proposed text amendment here. So the changes in red, it just shows that we're changing from 40 feet to 25 feet. And then the existing code says 3 feet from property lines. So that would be changed to 10 feet. Then we'll just switch over. This would be an entirely new section. So this is the enforcement section. So the city can investigate any alleged violation on observation or receipt of a complaint. If a property receives 3 or more verified violations within a 12-month period, we can revoke chicken keeping permits following written notice to the permit holder. They need to remove all chickens from their property within 30 days. And then it should remain, their permit would remain invalid for the rest of the city year. And then they could apply for a new permit after 1 full year has passed. And then, yeah, just allowing for actual enforcement from our code enforcement officers. So that's it.
I do have a question. I remember when we heard from residents a few years ago. Can't remember if it was exactly how long ago it was, but one of the residents indicated that there was a distinction in our code that only, I believe it said single family dwelling, something to that effect. And he rents, but where he rents, and I can't remember, he lived in a duplex or an apartment complex, but he could meet all the requirements. It's just that his resident was multifamily. Can you speak to that, either of you?
Yeah, so the current code says chickens can only be kept on a property with a single family detached residence.
And so I'd like the council to consider that there are residents that if they can meet what is proposed here, even if they're renting or, that why would we discriminate and not allow a resident who is a renter or in a multifamily?
When you're attached to another resident, how do you meet the setback?
So it would be allowed for a renter that's renting a house, right? So it's just limiting it to any property that has a single family home.
Well, maybe I've misspoken. I think that his point was that it was either a duplex or a multifamily. Was it, Sean? You remember that? So
yeah.
So I'd like the council, for the sake of equity, I don't think that only the privilege to have chickens should be for those who can afford a single family residence. If they can meet these criteria that you've just outlined.
Which might be a little bit more possible now to be 25 feet away if you're in a duplex than 40 feet. It's been really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not super relevant on the makeup of if it's a duplex or a home. If the setbacks, if these things can be complied with, then to your point, I agree, it shouldn't have to just be single family homes if they comply with these rules. I don't see a difference.
Because this is, whatever you want to say, subordinate to the code that you just read about single family, right? So, I mean, if we're going to address keeping chickens, I would like to be as comprehensive as we can. And again, for the sake of equity for our.
And it might be trickier for a duplex to meet the criteria, but there might be instances where they can, right? If they can, then they can. I don't know.
Well, and there are apartment complexes. I mean, how many of us have lived in an apartment complex in our lifetime? I've lived in a couple where they have expansive yard areas and maybe they have a community garden or they have, I don't know. I just want to make sure that we're being as equitable as we can to all of our residents.
I like that as well, but one of the things that I'm concerned with is the 10-foot setback. A lot of times, especially in residential areas, the backside of that property away from even at the 40 feet is far enough away from the dwellings that you try to put things, centralize those coops. I'm one of those folks. And 10 feet would throw that dead square in the middle of a garden versus being in the corner where it's 40 feet, actually more than that, from all of my neighbors.
It's further away from your house
It's
too.
further away from my house as well. So it pulls in, that is gonna pull those coops closer to the dwellings of the people that are having the coops in their yards, which is an issue.
I actually agree with you. I was thinking the same thing, that when you want to try to push these animals closer to the property line, that means that you're further away from the dwellings. How many chickens can they have?
Up to 6.
Yeah.
And they have to be permitted.
Yeah.
As long as they're not roosters. Roosters are the noisy ones. Chickens are not the
leave me
annoying.
out.
And the planning, their purpose for going from 3 to 10 was just to get it further away from the neighbor's yard.
Yeah, I think
But if-
so. Yeah, so by making it from 40 feet from the neighbor's house to 25, they just wanted to have the additional 10 feet from the property line to equate for that. So staff, when we initially drafted this, didn't include that 10-foot change from the property line. But I understand where the planning commission's coming from, but it would be a little more challenging, I think, for folks to have that. So the building code would require, so it would be considered an accessory building. You can build as close as 3 feet to the property line, but if it's closer than 5 feet, you have to have special building materials that would prevent fire from spreading to your neighbors. So
I appreciate Councilman Newell's observation. If he keeps chickens and he can speak to it, I have been around neighbors that have them, and I think 3 feet is adequate. I think the 10-foot is now becoming a hardship on the owner of the chickens. So I like what you proposed originally.
Sean is the chicken expert.
Well, no,
All on you,
but
man.
I'm just thinking for folks that are trying to move those coops away from their home to be, and they still are in compliance, that 10 feet pulls it back in and that becomes an issue.
Yeah.
So Chief, you've, been the enforcer of this. Any thoughts on this?
He's 100% right. The 3-foot rule was there for a reason. And for all the reasons you suggested.
I'm
Quickly,
comfortable with
the
3
3
feet.
violations, would rather have 2.
yeah, and to be clear, the 20-foot setback from the neighbors would supersede the 3-foot standard. So if you're only 15 feet from your neighbor's house, you can't be 18 feet from your property line, if that makes sense. So it's whichever's more. So you've got to be at least 3 feet from your property line or 20 feet from your neighbor, the greater distance of the two. So I think it's up to you all with how it moves forward.
I mean, I raised chickens when I was younger. They're stinky.
Yeah, that's.
They're
Biggest
noisy.
concern is the smell.
But I think 25 feet is adequate, and I do think it's better to push it back further away from your house, but still respect the fact that it's gotta be so far away from the neighbors as well. So those 2 criteria are met. I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think I have no problem with the 25 feet. I have no problem with 40 feet. It's just making sure that you're not hampering the ability of the person that wants the chickens to be able to have them. I know in Salt Lake City, it's really close. Some people have them right on their side yards. And I don't think that that's something that we want to do here, but 10 feet is a lot of square footage. That's a long ways away from the property lines. And our property lines are sometimes squonky.
Yeah.
Is that a word in the dictionary?
And to be clear, that there are a lot of protections and standards regarding you know, the maintenance, upkeep,
Yeah.
removing droppings.
And that makes all the
Just to help
difference.
mitigate smells, rodents, things like that. So, and that's why the enforcement language is important, is if a neighbor does call and they say, hey, we're having issues, an enforcement officer could respond and just investigate and say, okay, yeah, there are some serious issues you guys need to clean up. And if it continues to happen, we'll say, all right, you guys just can't have chickens anymore until you get your act together. So that the setbacks and everything are to help, but there are other mechanisms to help ensure that it's not gonna be a nuisance.
Yeah, I
for
like the
folks.
enforcement, and you can move your coop too, can't you, to like kind of allow the droppings to fertilize?
Well, no, I can, actually,
Enclosure,
droppings are enclosed there, so I actually dig out. And then I also pull them out from the coop itself. It's like, I can clean it, but like for me, I wanna, before I get my new chickens and wanna be in compliance, I just follow the trenching
Mhm.
requirements and everything else around it. And it would be a little bit of a burden to move all of that. And I know a lot of folks would run into that as well, to try to be in compliance now.
Yeah, and this would, to be clear, this would also only apply for people applying for chickens from when it's adopted moving forward. So people that currently have them can continue to operate as they were permitted initially. This would just be for new folks.
Well,
So
how does that work with folks that are grandfathered in from Henry County? Like myself. that
same.
happens
I mean, it's,
anyway.
you can operate under the rules that existed at the time of your approval. If you change anything, then it triggers the new standards to comply. So we'll bring this back to a future meeting for action, but what I'm hearing is to explore removing the single family detached limitation for chicken keeping, and then removing the 10-foot
in my garden
addition or setback from the property line back to the 3-foot. The direction we're
I think
receiving.
we have a consensus that,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good.
thank you for that.
Cool, yeah.
Thanks.
Good work.
Yeah, that's important stuff.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Item 4, review of calendars and upcoming events, the Winter Lobby Arts Display, Monday, November 17th, Monday, January 5th. The Senior Social Snowman Craft, Wednesday, November 19th. At 1:30 here at City Hall. Night the Heights is Monday, December 1st from 5 to 7. The Christmas concert with Clip 6 is Friday, December 5th from 7:30 to 9. Is that saying that's sold out?
Yeah.
It is, great. Great. Okay, and then we do not have anything to discuss in a closed session of this meeting. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn our work session and move into our CDRA.
I would like to,
At 5:30.
I would like to motion to close the work session, and I would like to motion that we invite our mayor-elect Galen Benyon to join in the
So that'll
CDRA
come,
closed
we go
meeting.
into a closed session from our CDRA. This is just
So
a
we'll-
motion to close our work
And the
session.
CDRA will have a separate motion to close the CDRA
enter
and go
into
into
a
a
closed
closed meeting.
session.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
Then I'll motion that we close the work session and go into a CDRA open meeting.
I'll second.
Second at 5:30.
Do we have?
Oh, in 1 whole
break?
minute.
Yes, we can. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick break.